Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Yo, folks and fam, welcome to MS and Millennial Shit. I'm your host, Ange, and I'm so happy that you joined me this week for an awesome interview. Stay tuned. Here it goes. Awesome. So on the phone, I have Joshua Webb. He is a really awesome, cool musician, and that is sort of the first way that we started talking was after me seeing one of your piano videos that you put up on Instagram. And I am completely impelled and so happy to have you on the show. Hi, Josh.
Hello. I am extremely happy to be part of this. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So I'm just going to jump right into it, into the thick of it. And I'm wanting to first ask, because we did discuss how you did graduate with a psychology degree and how you're actually putting that in constant use in your career at the hospital that you work at. And I want to ask how long you've actually been in the career at the hospital.
You know, it's really interesting that you asked that. I took a huge break. I acquired my master's many years ago, and because of multiple sclerosis coming into my life, I put school on hold. I was going to take a very short break and ended up taking a 10-year break and worked in the construction industry, owned a landscape company, a nursery, worked as a home builder, and had a successful life that absolutely involved zero of my education. After that big, huge time period, MS reared its ugly head again and had me making some really hard choices, and among those choices was I can't work in the 100-degree summertime conditions here in Texas. And my closest friends, who most of them are in medicine, finally rallied around me and said, go back to school and get your doctorate.
Wow.
So it's the very same reasons that I put getting my PhD on hold, which is an MS, what I would come to find out being MS over about a year of a diagnosing process. For those same reasons, I went back to school. The same reason I took a break, the same reason I went back. And it's just a reminder, something bad can happen and put your plans on hold, but something bad can happen again and bring those plans right back to you.
Wow, that's resiliency for you, for one thing. And yeah, that's excellent. I wanted to ask you how your education has applied, like your psychology education has applied to your MS journey. So that was a beautiful way of sort of bringing that out even before I asked. So that's excellent. So millennials represent a community of people born between about 81 and 1994. So you would be a millennial, as I would be a millennial. And you as well spoke about your diagnosis. You were diagnosed at age 25, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And so what was going on for you in life? You say you were in school at that time?
Absolutely. I had just finished grad school. I was working while going to school, and life was normal. I owned a home and a business, was relatively what I thought to be healthy. I was active. I was very athletic, played a lot of golf, got up and went jogging every morning before work, was living life, and somewhat of a, I don't want to say I was super rich and all of that, but I was living the American dream. I had a home and a wife and a business and, was continuing my education and had my health and took all of those things for granted, all of them.
So how did MS manifest itself to you? Like, what were your symptoms and what caused you to go into the hospital and find the reason for your symptoms?
Well, I will tell you what first happened was I was having a normal day. I got up that morning, it was Saturday. I had experiencing some tingling and numbness in my left hand and arm over a period of a couple of months, and it would be intermittent. It would be there very pointedly, and then it would disappear. Well, I have an injury. I had my arm cut in an incident when I was 17. It caused some nerve damage and some other things. That was a pretty significant scar, and it's on that same arm. And when I went to the doctor about it, we pretty much chalked it down to, hey, you just got some nerve damage. It's intermittent. It's from that injury when you were a senior in high school.
Yeah, like a residual.
That makes perfect sense. Go ahead.
It's almost like a residual effect from your previous injury.
Right. That's what we believe, and rightly so. I mean, I had no reason to not take his word for it. Great doctor, skilled physician. His opinion and mattered to me. It still does. He's still not my primary care provider.
Wow.
But after a couple of months of that coming and going, typical Saturday morning, I got up, went and played golf with my buddy, and it took me that evening. I took an ambulance ride to the hospital. 42 days later, they let me out of the hospital without a diagnosis. Still had no idea what was going on. And that pattern would continue for the next 11 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Seeing every specialist you can think of, neurologist, cardiologist, oncologist, litany of tests. They actually tested me for MS several times. Could not get a conclusive diagnosis. It just, MS is such an elusive creature. I mean, it's just so hard to diagnose.
So how was the formal diagnosis made after all of that testing? I imagine that, I mean, for me, I know that it was the lumbar puncture that really exposed the scarring. Was that the situation for you?
Well, the lumbar puncture very quickly into it made them think MS pretty early, but I showed no lesion activity through MRI.
Okay.
And it was finally, they did another round of MRIs with contrast, and my brain and something were lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was very, very, very quick.
Yeah, it was a sure telling of what was going on with you, which was...
And let me tell you, if you followed the Selma Blair story, when she did that interview that was really talked about, as it should have been around the Oscar time, when she said, I was relieved.
Yeah,
I can remember
absolutely.
that so much. I just spent 11 months of my life not having a clue what was going on with my previously very healthy body. And at this point, I couldn't stand up and walk on my own.
Right.
So when they said, this is what you have, I really didn't know anything much about it. I had very limited education regarding MS, but I had such a sense of relief because now, in my mind, I'm thinking they can treat this. I know they can't cure it. And in my mind now, I'm not waking up every morning, my body in a lot of pain and acting very strangely and not knowing why. At this point, at that point forward, I would know why my body did certain weird things. I would say, okay, well, MS is doing that.
Yeah, that is a relief to be able to understand the cause of what's happening. If you don't know what's causing the cause of what's happening, I definitely understand that. And yes, I definitely understand the process that you had to go through and how rough that must have been, because it is such a difficult diagnosis to make at times.
Yeah, I was no exception.
And are there any symptoms that are in your life and that you face daily? I know for me, I have drop foot, which, has created a lot of setback for me, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. And being able to just, come to grips in terms with that and getting around in general. Do you face any daily situations like that with your own process of having MS?
I do, actually. I deal with a few things, one of which, most of my symptoms are in my legs. Mm-hmm. My legs hurt constantly. No matter what I'm doing, definitely sometimes they hurt a lot more. Sometimes they hurt to the point of, it makes my eyes water. It puts me in tears, and then I have to up my medication. But it definitely affects my legs more than anything. But lately, I mean in the last month or so, it's been affecting my hands in a way that I haven't been used to. The symptoms, I told you before what my early symptoms were. I'm starting to have those symptoms again where I haven't had them in years. And when I say years, I mean 10 years. Yeah, that hasn't been very much fun.
Yeah.
I'm learning to, something as simple as sending a text message at times is difficult because my hands just won't cooperate, which I will tell you, as a musician, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine so, because music is usually all about your hands. Not all about, but heavily involving your hands.
It definitely is when you're a piano player and a guitar player, and I'm both.
Right.
My hands are very important.
Wow. So you had those symptoms to sort of push you to go into the doctor to get to a diagnosis, which took 11 months. I want to ask, you say you were healthy before, that you were normal functioning and everything. So did you ever previously have any strange occurrences with your physicality or with the way that your body operated that made you later on after the diagnosis sort of connect that it might have been a sign of having MS? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, and I will say this, when we started, once I knew what MS symptoms were like, we were actually able to backtrack until when I was about 14 or 15 years old, starting to have MS symptoms then, but they were so intermittent and we didn't know what the problem was. I used to have a problem in high school. I couldn't sit on the floor or in certain chairs or in certain positions very long, and I would immediately get the pins and needles in my leg.
Oh, wow, okay.
But My dad actually took me to the doctor. When I was 16 years old, the doc said, they thought it was circulation issues then. The doc said, no, can't see anything wrong. But later on, discovering and having a diagnosis of MS, my urologist concluded, and I do concur with it, knowing my own body, that MS more than likely came into my life at about 14.
Wow, that's intense. So I think that's interesting that you would say that you, looking back on things, that you can recognize MS sort of symptoms correlated with MS that you experienced at an earlier age. That's something that I've heard a lot about and experienced myself, so I just find that so intriguing. I wanted to also ask, when we were talking previously, you said you do a lot of traveling, and does your MS affect you when you travel at all?
It does. Some, but the biggest thing is that I deal with traveling is sometimes I take an aid, a walking aid, a cane with me.
Yeah.
And I look, you know how this goes, the MS thing, but you don't look sick.
Yes.
And to be, I'm 6'2", 170 pounds, and I'll take this wrong, but if I take my shirt off, I look like I'm a healthy 30-something.
Yeah.
Lean, I'm able to exercise when I can. So be walking through an airport leaning on a cane and you look healthy and you look young, it does cause problems I don't have necessarily problems with my MS when I travel very often. I have problems dealing with TSA security.
Yeah.
Because they want to know why a healthy-looking person is walking with a cane.
Absolutely.
And go through a lot of scrutiny over that. And I've had some issues. I was in DFW. This was several years ago. In fact, for 7 years, I walked on a cane all the time. I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I was at DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, one of the largest airports in the world, and we're flying Salt Lake City, Utah, for what was supposed to be a really fun holiday. And my first day in Salt Lake, I was not in a very good mood, and I will tell you why. We go through security. You empty your pockets, you take your belt off, if you're wearing one, put your shoes on the conveyor belt, you walk through, and your carry-on baggage, and you walk through the X-ray machine. Well, they pulled me to the side, asked me why I was on a cane. Mind you, I was in my late 20s at that time, and I said, I have MS, and they said, whatever, you look fine. Patted me down, went through my luggage all over the place, and made me repack it. Fortunately, I had a traveling companion with me, and she would help me, but they made a scene out of me right there in the middle of the checkpoint of airport security. Patted me down really very personably, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Scrutinized me heavily. I almost missed my flight because of it.
That is, first of all, intense to experience. I can't imagine what that was like in that setting. And I want to apologize for that situation, for those people that caused that situation, because, first of all, I feel like training should be in place to not discriminate against anyone who needs walking assistance or has any type of condition that requires aid, and that's harassment. No one deserves that. And the fact that that is what you went through is really, I don't want to say the F word because it's, a family program, but it's really messed up. And that's an intense situation. I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably use my assisted device to bash a few heads and...
Totally lost. I absolutely totally lost.
Wow.
In a nonstop flight from Dallas to Salt Lake, I spent staring at the window with tears rolling down my face in silence. For a 3-hour flight.
That is the worst. That is so wrong. That's an abuse of power. And
yes.
It's really, that story, I'm so glad that you're sharing it. It's so disgusting right now to hear, harsh, because that is a reality a lot of the time, for people with invisible illnesses and conditions that don't necessarily match up with what we look like or how we carry ourselves. So I'm sorry you went through that, and I don't know why people choose to be mean, and I feel for you, man. You said you were in your 20s, but that's heavy. Whew. I'm gonna move on to a lighter topic. So we were talking about your diet a little bit ago, and I asked what your diet looks like. You said verbatim, no dairy, lots of carbs, and very high protein. So you said you eat 5 meals a day and snack often. I want to ask how you do that. I did. I made breakfast this morning. I tried to do a impromptu sort of bootleg protein bowl for myself with black beans and I put cheese in there. I don't remember everything I put in there, even though it was an hour ago. But I tried to cook for myself, and I'm not in the kitchen. That hasn't been like a desire of mine in my life to like be in the kitchen as much, but I know now like that's the only way I'll survive. So I want to ask, like, how do you do it? Do you meal prep, and what do your meals typically consist of?
I don't meal prep, and it's funny that you asked me about meal prepping because I did an interview. It was on Good Friday. It was last week, Good Friday. I did an interview for some medical testing stuff. I'm about to go through a field trial, and the lady's taking all my very detailed information, and she says, when we got to food, what kind of foods do you eat? And I told her, and she said, how often do you meal prep? And I said, I never meal prep. And she said, well, she was taken aback by that. Apparently, someone who is a working professional who eats the way that I eat, because for one, I have an extremely high metabolism and just have to. She was floored. She said, well, how do you have time to stop and eat? And I said, I stop and eat.
Yeah.
And I responded to her the same way, I tell everybody, well, how do you have time for that? Well, do you have time if you're running late somewhere and you're running on empty on your car? Do you stop and get gas?
Right.
Maybe you're going to be a little behind schedule, or do you keep going until you run out of gas and now you're entirely behind schedule and you miss everything because you're stuck on the side of the road?
Right.
And that's the way our bodies are. When our body says, give me food, it's saying, give me fuel.
Yes.
We have to fuel ourselves. I know people who eat once a day. They'll eat breakfast, or they'll wait all day, and they'll eat a late lunch and early dinner, and that's their meal, or anywhere in between, the 5 meals a day and the snacking that I do. No matter what our situation is, our bodies will tell us when to eat.
Right.
And when
the
to
stomach
stop.
rumbles. And when to stop eating, exactly.
When we're full, our bodies are programmed to tell us, I don't need any more. I'm full. And that's part of the obesity problem, especially in the States, and majorly so in the southern United States.
Right.
Because people eat just to eat. It's not only are they typically not eating healthy, but they're eating and eating and eating and eating, and their bodies don't need it. Therefore, they're not burning the calories. Therefore, they become obese. Right.
Wow. Yeah. That's very well put. I would say, just like breaking down, it's the caloric intake, but it's also the caloric outtake or input output.
Sure.
And I feel like that it's really basically that simple. So it's like whatever you put into your body. The thing for me, I know with eating, like I am one of those people that eats like when I'm hungry, and then like I don't eat when I'm not. You know what I mean? So like I could go a whole day without eating because there's no urge. Like my body doesn't have the urge to eat. And I don't know if that goes to like my whole like psychology on eating, and that's throughout my life gone through the process. But yeah, that's important information to take to be able to help your own situation in terms of how you care for your body. I feel like eating is, you eat for your health. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So yeah, and you are very healthy. Your pictures on Instagram, yes, I wish I could get a body like that. And
You're gonna make me blush.
I wanted to ask also about like what do you snack on?
Whatever.
Okay.
I have learned to listen to my body, snack on what you crave.
Nice.
I always tell people when they talk to me about that, what are your secrets? First of all, my genetics. The men on my dad's side of the family are all tall, slender men, so I have genetics in my favor, but all of us have to eat because we have such high metabolism. But really, it's snack on what you crave. If you're craving something salty and savory, it's because your body needs that.
Right.
If you're craving something sweet, it's because your body needs that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're craving a certain fruit, we'll go through, our brains are programmed to know, our brains know what nutrition and what food. We have to teach ourselves by reading the labels and doing our own homework.
Right.
But if you're running low on potassium, it is not uncommon for people to crave bananas.
Makes sense.
Or if our blood sugar is low, to crave something that, whether it's a natural sugar like a piece of fruit or candy or something like that.
Strawberries.
So to answer your question, I snack on what I crave.
Excellent. That's a beautiful relationship that you have with yourself. I wanted to also ask one last question. Well, it's like one last question about your diet. You said you went on a vegan diet for about 3 years previously. Did you do it as a result of receiving like your MS diagnosis, or was it just something you just felt impelled to do? And why did you discontinue it if you have?
I could not maintain a healthy weight.
Okay.
It just could not.
Were you underweight?
I was. I absolutely was.
that makes sense. And did you start it because of your diagnosis, or was that something that you just felt impelled to try out and sort of see how it affected you?
I started seeing a doctor under the care of a doctor. Someone hooked me up with, I don't know if you're familiar with him, his name is Dr. John McDougall, a neurologist, the first accredited physician to treat multiple sclerosis patients through diet only.
Dr. McDougall worked with Dr. Swank, right?
Yes, Dr. Webb,
Yes.
Dr. Neil Barnard, they're all tied in together.
Okay.
But he's from the Cleveland Clinic. They're in your area. He's with the Cleveland Clinic. He has been a fellow there for many, many years, decades. But what he discovered several years ago, treating MS patients, he did a field study on MS patients and their diet, and he found that 100% of the patients that had strict vegan diet were all not needing medication.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I've been on this kick lately, and I went into researching like 3 days strictly on the computer for researching the Swank diet recently. And I've been like picking up knowledge throughout life, especially my later years in life so far. And, coopulating diets together to create like a diet for myself that's fitting, as I feel like that's what you've done. And yeah, I definitely am grateful for people like Dr. McDougall? Dr. John McDougall and Dr. Roy Swank. I also follow things like, I research things, like this Dr. Sebi diet and things like that nature. And it's all basically, low saturated fats, low fats in general, and high rich vegetable intake, which has, really been amazing because, there have been patients that have reversed their symptoms and things of that nature. And I think that's amazing. But I understand the struggle. Yeah, I'm glad that we discussed that. So last year you had a major exacerbation. I wanted to discuss this because it's important. And I know you said that you experienced the exacerbation as a result from prolonged heat exposure mixed with pretty extensive physical activity. And would you say you're still recovering from your exacerbation from last year?
In part, yes. And recovering means several things.
Okay.
Such as recovering, it takes a financial toll, it takes a mental toll, it takes a toll on your friends and family. I have several conversations with my friends that call me up, and I love this about them, and absolutely love my friends, so I don't want to sound unappreciative of their care. But since then, I get a lot of phone calls, when I just may want to talk to a friend, and I think they're just calling me up to say hello, they're not. But the first thing, hey, how are you feeling? That always comes up in conversation, and it's like sometimes I don't want to talk about how I'm feeling. Can we talk about football, or can we talk about work, or can we talk about, hey, are we going to go have a beer later, or are we going to let's talk about where we want to go have brunch on Saturday morning. I want to have normal conversations sometimes that don't include, hey, how you feeling?
I find that interesting that you say that, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. I'm going to ask a little bit more, get a little more sort of clarity on, you said, there are basically different layers to recovery in different aspects. I want to first ask, so from the experience of that exacerbation until now, how you have personally grown from the experience, if you've received any life lessons that are rather notable in this process of recovery so far. I know that every day is a chance for something else to be discovered. And I just wanted to know if there's anything that's really honed home with you personally coming out of this exacerbation and recovering.
Personally with me, some of the things that I'm still dealing with, I'm having the symptoms on my left hand that I'd never dealt with before on a chronic basis. I had that intermittent problem in the early days of MS, but now I'm starting to have it pretty constantly. So that's new. And getting my weight and fitness back up, that has been a struggle. When I was discharged from the hospital, I weighed 137 pounds. I am 6'2". I was skin and bones.
Itty bitty.
Itty bitty. No muscle tone whatsoever. No muscle to tone up. So where I've come now to hit that 175-pound mark.
That's your goal?
That was my goal, and I hit it.
Excellent. Congrats on that.
And my percent of body fat is less than 5%.
Oh, wow. That's good. Or is that good?
It is. It's very good. It's very. Okay. Most bodybuilders, their goal is 7 or 8%, and the 5% marker is, I mean, that's the holy grail for men. With women, not so much. Women are built differently and need to be between 12 and 14, sometimes even 16 or 17, because women have parts that are made of fatty tissue that men don't have.
Right.
So that's going to change. I mean, for the lack of a better way to say it, guys don't have food, or at least shouldn't.
Yes.
He's overweight, needs to work on his health. But breast consists of fat. All there is to it. And also, women have more fat percentage in their body because a woman is designed differently. They're designed to carry a baby. They're designed to be different and designed to, the essence of a woman is quite different than the essence of a man. Thank goodness.
Totally, yeah. I feel that.
Women are beautiful. Men, not so much.
Well, men can be beautiful. I think you're pretty beautiful, so
I think you're pretty beautiful too.
Thank you. For the interview, this is going to be the last sort of thing, and that is that you're being recognized by organizations like the MS Society, the National MS Society, who reached out to you this year to become like an advocate.
Sure.
And you've also recently been approached by Instagram to put out a channel, which is some really awesome stuff, and it really highlights your involvement, not only in the community, but just with people in general, I guess. And I want to give you the space here to sort of like plug yourself and shout yourself out, let us know how we can further support you. And I feel like support goes both ways. So how and what you're doing to further provide support. I know we were talking about how you were interested in possibly, again, I don't use the word lobbying, but like, getting sort of more attention on the whole balance between HMO and insurance companies and things like that. So, and that may take like speaking on panels and things. So if you will, please go ahead and share with us some information like in that sort of region.
I think, and thank you for that. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that is the biggest platform that I'm using. You can just reach such a broad audience. Even people who don't follow me per se can still get the message out through the hashtag process. It's a really important thing to do because people who follow hashtags such as This Is MS, which is the MS Society's official hashtag, you can make a post and you hashtag that and they may see that.
Oh.
And get support because they're following the hashtag even though they're not following the individual. So Instagram I'm learning how to use Instagram. I just reached 1,400 followers, which is really cool. I've been using Instagram for just a few months. So it's been pretty exciting to be able to get the message out to people. It's the important thing to me isn't say, hey, look at me, I have all these followers. The important thing to me is, look, message is reaching this many people.
Right.
On Instagram, you can follow me at Joshua.Webb with 2 B's, Joshua.Webb.1840.
Excellent.
That's Joshua.Webb.1840. The absolute best way to reach me. I highly recommend anybody with MS to follow the MS Society and also to follow an organization that's relatively young, but an amazing organization called the Faces of MS. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly spelled out that way, the Faces of Multiple Sclerosis.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a wonderful, independently started organization, separate from the MS Society, but similar goals, just to get awareness out there.
And to further support, right? Because it raises the visibility of each other to each other. So that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Josh, for doing this. And I really appreciate this. Keeping in tune with your continued journey through this all. And I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I was really excited to do this, and I'm happy that we had an amazing interview. MS squared out.